Well, I have something to do before you stop, so I think we should pay homage.
Homage.
Yes.
Thank you. I appreciate that, but I want you to know that I only did it for one reason, because it was as much fun doing it as I thought it would be, and it wasn't something I had to do, it was something that I wanted to do.
Yes.
What about $100 for each payment?
It'll go to a very good cause, my bank account. Anyway, what I'd like to do, and some of you I'm sure have read in the Bellarmine publications that you get, the fact that we have a relatively new president of Bellarmine, Dr. Susan Donovan, who is with us today. She has already learned a little bit about the Podiceps. I think she's probably learned a little bit more tonight. But I think she would like to say a few words to us, and let's welcome her here right now.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
I want to thank Ed, Tanini. I can't even remember, Ed and Carol, where we were. I remember where we were. We were in Bellarmine, but I can't remember when it was that they told me about this occasion tonight. And I can't remember if I crashed it or if you asked me.
No, I asked you.
Okay, I think you asked me. So that's the story, we're sticking to it. But you know, I was a dean of students for 20 years. So people used to, in my previous institution, I would see the alums and they'd look at me with that eye, and I thought, you know, I don't remember what you did. I just remember that we had a good relationship, which was often the case. But I am really thrilled to be here tonight. I'm thrilled to be at Bellarmine. This is my actually first anniversary today. June 1, and I attended the Mass last year for the alumni, but I didn't really get to any of the other events because we were unloading a truck and trying to get settled in the Highlands. But it's I look forward to getting to know this group better. I think I've heard great things about the orchestras on campus, the work that you've done, and obviously the network that you created when you were young adults has lasted a lifetime. And that's what I always talk to our students about, that Bellarmine inspires them for a lifetime, and I really believe that to be true. I've met so many alums who are just passionate about Bellarmine and what Bellarmine did for them. And I just want to assure you, we are in the same spirit continually with our students. I love going to work every day. We still have 41% first generation college students who are very committed. We have 70% from the state of Kentucky. I'm a first generation, my husband's first generation college student, so I really felt as though this was meant to be. And I couldn't be happier or more honored to serve as the president of Bellarmine. So I look forward to seeing you over the weekend. I want you to obviously enjoy tonight, and any time that you're either in town, which I know we have a lot of local people here. What did we call that? It was day hops. But people who remained in Louisville, and love to see you on campus. But any of you who come back, please stop by and let us know whenever you're on campus, because it is really the relationships and the people at Bellarmine that is the culture of Bellarmine. That's one of the things I said when I first started. The great thing is I don't have to change the culture. It's only to shout it from the rooftops about what a great place Bellarmine is. So thank you very much.
So just a couple of other notes. We have also some other folks from Bellarmine here, and Peter Kramer over here, who in fact, is the Director of Alumni Affairs. He has been incredibly helpful to help me put this together. And we've got several people here from the Office of Getting Your Money. Tina Kaufman and Ian, who you met when he was already taking your money to give to me to pay for this whole thing. But turn around and look at who they are, because it's important to know these people as they continue to ask for your money over the years. Remember them in your will. At any rate, let's start eating. And you know what? Even though it sounds crazy, I'm a military guy, and it works better if we do it. Start with the table right there and go Terry's table, and the next one's over there, and just kind of work your way around. Otherwise, there won't be a long line. And listen, keep listening. This bar is open, and if you've got tokens, you can also go to the other bar if you want. And the club would love for you to drink as much as you'd like. Thank you. A little conversation, and I know that all the people that are going to come up here and speak are going to be extraordinarily serious. Just like we always were when we were students at Bellarmine, right? Okay. First, let me recognize our music master, Bob Albers, who, if you noticed, all the songs were from the 64 to 68 era, and he selected it, and it's not nearly as loud as he used to play it down at St. John's, but I think that was okay, because most of us are deaf anyway, right? What? Because of that. That's exactly right. His wife came up to me early on, and she said, "How did you ever get him to do this? He only will allow me to play classical music now." That's great. At any rate, I want to also recognize Hank Schmidt. Everybody knows Hank from back there. He joined us a little late. Thanks for coming. We really do appreciate you. And now, without further ado, I'm going to introduce the Master of Ceremonies, the guy who, quite frankly, was one of my favorite, and I thought was the funniest guy that I've ever met in my life. But I get to get back at him just for a second. Jerry, come up here for a second.
Jerry Lynch, my debate partner.
Jerry, this is a photograph that I copied today from the Courier Journal.
Yeah.
I want you to tell the complete story of what you see here.
Oh, this is the fire that broke out at the '65 Derby when Kauai King, no, he was 66, is that right?
Jerry, don't ask me that.
65 when Kauai King won, and all I remember is that we were there and we went home that night and somebody said, "What did you think about the fire at the racetrack?" And I said, "What fire?"
Well, that's really close to what I was going to say. Not nearly as, but true. His dad asked him, said, "Jerry, my God, what about the fire?" Jerry said, "What fire?" We were in the infield. What else can I say? Let me also say something else about Jerry. The years that I knew Jerry at Bellarmine, he could take this glass, and you could ask him, and you could say, "Okay, Jerry, who won?" It's too small now. I certainly can't see this. I said, "Who won the Derby in 1932?" And he would say,
Well, I could do that in 1968.
Let me tell you what. For every single year back in the 60s, he could tell you. And now I'm sure that being old like he is and forgetful, he can't do it anymore. He also used to be able to do something else. He also had a cup just like this that would actually, it's a history of who finished last in every Derby over the 144 that existed. And he could also not only tell you this one, but he could tell you this one. That's the kind of mind that this guy had. Now, it's deteriorated a lot. But I thought the way I'd introduced him is the incredible mind, the incredible wit, and this is this year's last place derby. I'm going to give it to you, Jerry.
Oh, great.
So we expect you to come back at 60 years and be able to recite this one.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Of course, what I remember about that is one time we were down there and Fred Gerwin challenged me, and I thought, okay, we'll do this. But then he had a bunch of people who had already memorized what was going on, and he won. And that's my story is Freddie cheated, and that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So I was going to say I'm a man who needs no introduction, but I guess I. What?
It was worth $10.
Yeah. Well, I don't believe that part of the story because I never would have paid off on that. So, you know, now I need these to kind of get through. This is great for everybody to come back, and I'm so happy to have everybody back here. And you know, it was fun to be down for the class of '68, but here we are, the guys who are the Podiceps, and you know, it's just an amazing group. We're going to have a couple of people speak after me. Eddie and Michael got together and said maybe you should be the MC, and I think they decided on that because then if I was just introducing people and not speaking, that might limit how much time I would spend talking. But good luck with that. Is all I've got to say. I want to go back again, and we've already done it. But Eddie has just done an outstanding job putting this together. Thank you for everything.
Don't call that man Eddie.
I'm gonna introduce people later on, but since I have the podium, I'm gonna take some time to spend just a few minutes going through this and start off by saying, quite honestly, I did not want to go to Bellarmine. When I got out of high school, I was dying to get away. I wanted to live go to a big campus, live in a dorm, and I remember filling out the form. I don't know why Penn State appealed to me. Filling out the form to go to Penn State, and my dad said one night in the living room, "What are you doing?" I said, "Filling out this admissions form to Penn State." And he said, "You know, we can't afford to send you there." And I said, "Yeah, I know. I just want to fill it." You know? So I went to Bellarmine and I didn't want to go. But you know what? When I got there, something extraordinary happened. I mean, it was a remarkable time and a remarkable experience. And maybe I thought Penn State would have been more challenging academically, but I didn't really need much more of a challenge than I got at Bellarmine. I don't know if any of you are aware of this, but I've been an academician, sort of, for the last 40-something years. I've taught at Ball State, and I've been at Purdue for 36 years, and I've seen a lot of students come through. I was Associate Dean of the undergraduate program, and I met and interacted with a lot of undergraduates during that time, and I kept thinking to myself, these people are good. They're not as good as we were. And I know that many people outside thought that we had an inflated view of ourselves. Maybe it was the fact that when you walked into St. John's, above the door and you had to reach up and touch it every time you went in was, I thank God every day that I'm a Podiceps, you know, but, you know, so it goes. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about the academic side because everybody has all of their own memories, but I have to go one, not back to the necessarily positive, but this is for the people in our class because those who came after didn't have this, but the natural science class that we had, you may remember this, and I remember the prof telling us he'd gotten his PhD in '28, and at the time I thought, oh my God, that was 37 years ago, and here I am, you know, I'm 43 years ago and still teaching. Two things I remember about that. On the very first quiz, they were all multiple choice. There were a number of questions, and when we got them back, everybody got one question wrong, and the reason was that there were no correct answers in the multiple choice. The only way you got it right was if you didn't actually answer the question. But the one that I liked best was then shortly after that, he was talking about astronomy, which was really, the lectures were in outer space. And he said the largest of all the stars is the sun. And I'm thinking, I don't think that's right, you know, but you couldn't Google it at the time. But it didn't matter because on the next multiple choice exam, the question was the largest of all the stars. the sun, right? I might not have been smart, but I knew how to play the game. But the most extraordinary part, of course, was the reason why we're here. For the guys that you met and the people that you got to know. And when I finally went to Bellarmine, thinking it wouldn't be a different experience because I'm still in the same town, I met all of these guys from St. X. Some of them were really very nice people. And I'm going to just kind of briefly, somehow, I mean, I'm sure most of you remember this, but the Podiceps really started as a intramural football team our freshman year. And I think after a game one time, you know, I'm going to reconstruct this as best I remember. We're over at Bob Albert's basement, and he's built a stereo set with a bunch of tubes, you know. What he had built at the time would take up this room, and now you can get it on your iPhone. And Louis was there, Louis Lococo and Gil, and we started talking about going on from being just a football team to being a club. And somehow along the way it started, and we went to a party at somebody's farm. I think it was Ronnie's farm. I can't remember. But, you know, that's kind of how it started. And also during that time, I was hitchhiking home from Bellarmine one day. That's how I got there and got back. And this guy, this older man in a Volkswagen picked me up. And it was Mike Nobby. And that was the beginning of a long and obviously very fruitful friendship. So we finished that freshman year. And then for the sophomore year, my good friend from high school, Tom Sipes, came back. And it just seemed obvious that he would join us in the Podiceps. And so we really kind of joined and formed a club at that time. And there have been emails going back and forth, and I don't know if you have read them or not. But one morning, Tommy drove to school. He had a 56 Chevy with a rusted out right rear hind quarter on it. And he would pick up Charlie Hoban and me, and we would go to school together. And one day he said, you know, one of the things I've always thought would be fun would be to have a concert at Bellarmine with the Louisville Symphony Orchestra and then have fireworks afterwards. And, you know, I'd known Tommy for a while, and he had a lot of harebrained schemes. He almost got Ronnie Singler and I killed canoeing down the Ohio River between our junior and senior year. We were going at night. We almost got run over by a barge. We avoided it. And Ronnie, being the person who always loved this, you know, the harder it was and the more it hurt, the better it was. And we almost got run over by a barge, and we escaped. And at the end, Ronnie says, "That was great. Wasn't that great?" No, it wasn't great. We almost died out there. So Tommy comes up with this, why don't we do a concert? And I'm thinking, the hell with that. I'm not going to listen to that. But Charlie really got into it. And the next thing you know, the two of them start calling around, finding where we have money, doing things like that. You got to remember, we were 19 and 20-year-olds. You know, I've seen a bunch of 19 and 20-year-olds over the year, and they're not like those two were in any way. And so come that fall, we had our first concert. I remember Tom introducing it, and then we did the fireworks at the end. And if you read in the booklet, one of the things you'll see in the booklet is that almost everybody remembers helping set off the fireworks. Thinking, there couldn't have been that many people setting off the fireworks because there were some other people sitting outside. But anyhow, that's how it was. And then from that, we went down to St. John's, Mabel, you know, Mike Abel. People still call you Mabel?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, Mabel got us in down at St. John's, and we kind of formed a group, and you know, we had a clubhouse, and it was really great. And then we elected Michael. Tommy was the first president. Michael was the second president during our time period. I just have so many fond memories of all of that during that time period. Hanging out down at St. John's, you had a place to go. I was telling Charlie Brooks about this earlier. I remember one night we were down there, and he and I and Mike Middleton and Steve Kern on sax. We had two guitars and a drums and a sax, and we knew two songs, and we turned it into a 43-minute set. You know? So those are the kind of things that are kind of hard to duplicate. But then during that time, we were going through the onslaught of the Vietnam War. That whole specter of getting drafted was hanging over everybody's head. It was very active politically and thinking about what the future was going to be, and then The Graduate comes out, and it was like this movie was made for our class, you know, because the uncertainty of what you're going to do when you graduate and what you're facing and so forth. And so we go through graduation in May of '68, and then we disperse. We're here tonight. I mean, it's been 50 years, and I haven't seen, some I have, but I haven't seen people in between, but we somehow survived, all but. We have 5, and I hope I can remember, who have not survived. Bill Connors, who was one of the original. Ken George, unfortunately, didn't make it. Keith George. Keith, I'm sorry. It's like Mark Twain writing about the early demise. Jimmy Mudd, Tom Hamilton, and Steve Miller. Jimmy Mudd, I remember, all of those guys from Springfield, Bardstown, and Lebanon. You know, at the time, I thought it was all like the same place. They were maybe 15 miles apart. They all knew, they were like a bunch of mutants, you know? They all knew one another, you know. Well, he went to this high school and that high school. And how'd you know him 15 miles? But they did. Who knows what was going on down there? It's still kind of a weird place. And we dispersed. But it's great. It's great for all of us to be back. And my God, the memories, I still go back and think about it all the time. And I'm sure every class that has ever graduated from any college, anywhere, always thought that they were the best group that ever graduated from any place, anywhere. The only difference is we were right. We were right. So I'm going to keep it short and introduce some people who are going to come up. I know I haven't, but the rest of the people will. And let some people talk about what's going on and what they think about what's happened over this time period. And I'm going to start with the person who placed us down at St. John's and was the president of our senior class. And even now, as I look at that, I'm thinking, really? But he was, great guy. Mike, tell us what you got to say. Mike Abel.
Us guys in Lebanon, Springfield, and Bardstown knew each other because we had the Club 68 to Golden Horseshoe.
And the Club Cherry.
And the Club Cherry. That's a little before my time. But they asked me to talk about some things that happened at Bellarmine that impacted me. First, Father Loftus. After the first semester, I wanted to take 21 hours or something. He said, Mike, you need to read, and I want you in the Cardinal sections next year. So that was really an eye-opener for me and a great experience. 2 teachers that I liked being on the business side were Bart Basie and Frank O'Rourke. A couple of us were talking about those 2 earlier tonight. They were super. Maggie Mahoney, everybody knows, was super. Dr. Henry Wilson. Only us business guys took this great science course.
I didn't mention his name, Mike. I was going to leave it there, but okay.
Cardinal section, the first trip I took was to New York, and one of the guys from Louisville, probably St. X, I'm sure it wasn't Trinity, all he did was stay in his room and watch TV the whole time. Well, being from Lebanon and not having had TV as a kid, I thought, well, damn, that's what we're supposed to do in New York. But I didn't. The guys made me go out. Then going to New Orleans, we got down to L&N a little late because Jerry and I were at the chapel attending Mass and cleaning up afterwards, and we had to run to get on the train. Jerry tells a different story, but I'm sure that was true. In New Orleans, what I remember is escorting these 2 cops, trying to help them find their precinct headquarters. Jerry and Mike Moran came back and said, here, Mike, we'll take them. We know how to get there. You remember that? So I'm finished. Bellarmine was a great place. The Podiceps was a great group, and it was a good time, very good time.
2:30 or 3 in the morning on a bus. And Mike Moran and I went out to get breakfast, and we go to this place, and he orders a large orange juice. And now, you know, this is 1965, and we don't have any money. And he gets the orange juice, and he drinks it like in 3 seconds. And I said, you just drank $1.15 worth of orange juice, which is like $12 today. And we thought, I need to go back to Glasgow. I've read all the things that people have done, and I know all of you over time have probably served on this board or that. And one of the things that you know is that the most important thing you do on a board are pick the people who are going to follow you, who are the people who are going to be your successors. And I feel like one of the best things we did, the class of '68 at Podiceps, was to pick the people who are going to follow us the next year and then the year after that. And so we don't want to get too wrapped up with just 68 people, and so we decided it was time to hear from somebody who didn't necessarily graduate with that august group of people. And so Steve Kern is going to represent the next group. Thank you.
Well, so here I am. I'm class of '69, and glad to be here. And I have a compatriot who is sneaking up from the back of the room here, Tom Boner, who is one of the friends of the Podiceps, or FOPs. But I'm glad to be representative, because I think what happens and how we sustain things and so forth, even for particular periods of time, is really important. And I was trying to think of how we think of our lives, like our lives have unfolded and so forth. And I was thinking about adult lives. I didn't deal with, you know, the young childhood things and so forth. So I was trying to think of the 3 stages of adult life, or young adult life, let's say, until now. And so the first, stage 1, the questions that you're asked and the kinds of things you discuss are things like, so, what did you pick as your major? Do you have any job interviews? What are your career plans? How do you think things are going to go? That's stage 1. Stage 2 is, hey, how's the family? How's the career going? Did you get that promotion that I heard about? And stage 3 is, you look great. So we're kind of working on that. So glad to have Tom and his guitar upside down and backwards.
As usual.
As usual. And we thought we might try to put some of this into some music. Just recalling some of the songs, perhaps some of the ones that you heard on the Bob recording before. I like the strumming, but I especially like the fact that the strumming starts from the higher strings down to the bass strings, which is kind of different.
Bob Alberts appreciates that too.
So we're going to start with one that the Sultans put out. Remember the Sultans?
Yes.
1962.
Words are different.
The word, well, we played with the words a little bit late last night, so you gotta give us a break here. So, should we do the intro?
Sure. I'm going to say too, though, it just happens that a friend of mine sent something to me by email today, and it had to do with a reunion, and I thought, I'm going to share this. It was 2 guys talking, and one says, you know, the good news is, I remember you from school. But the bad news is, I remember you from school.
So take your pick. Okay, so a little quick intro.
Ready?
Yes.
Okay. For tonight, we'll hold your hand, we'll help you stand, we'll stand together. A Podiceps clan.
All right. Try not to get hokey.
It's not going to get better.
So that was our key. But yes, as we are out here on the river, and most of you probably drove past Cox Park, except for those of you who live in Glenview and all those fancy places and stuff like that. You probably drove past Cox Park. And some of you may remember going down there with your dates to watch the submarine races. And with your friends back there. And you Louisville guys know exactly what I'm talking about. about the submarine races. That's fine. So we thought we'd do one for remembering the Trendells and the song Night Owl. So we thought we'd do that.
Again, modified.
But, yeah, improved, we would say.
9 o'clock.
9:30, 10 o'clock, 10:30,
curfew
time. A night owl strolling with Viagra in his hand. Night owl, listen, boy, we know you are a natural born man. Hey, it's way past pillow time now, like you are in your prime. Whoa, whoa, night owl. The Monarchs. Actually, this is the biggest hit out of any band in Louisville. Look Homeward Angel. We had to kind of rework that. It was number 2 in Boston, by the way. So we're going to try a different version. That's it? That's good. Look homeward, Abel, on our St. John's lair, dreaming of that late night kingfish sandwich fare. Look homeward, novice, tell me what you see. Look around, we're still the friends we used to be. So much time has passed, alas, too quickly. Whatever. Here we are together, share our history. Bum, 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 bum. So we'll have this evening to remember as we all move along to life's November. Look homeward, all y'all. What a future fair. For tonight, let's dream of times we all can share. Exactly the way it was written. You're lovely and never ever change. Keep your breathless charm. Don't you rearrange it, 'cause you're lovely just the way you look tonight. That's right.
At least the sentiment was there.
And then we have one, as we were trying to think of, okay, what are the songs we could cover here or reword? And one came to mind that just seemed almost in its normal form to be exactly where we are tonight. Changing the capo.
Yeah.
What's your name? Have I met you before? What's your name? Do you have a business card? It's so hard to say if you are really Harry, Tom, or Mike Tonini. What's your name? What's your name? What's your name? I've spent all this party working to recall your name. My only consolation, you're doing just the same. Oh, what's your name? What's your name? What's your name? What's your name? Shooby-doo-bop-wada. That's it. Other than me saying, thanks, folks. It's a delight to see everyone here and recalling all these things, the music, the sounds, the voices, and the people that have happened since. And that's what friends are for.
Thank you.
So I mentioned before when Tom came back, Tom and I had been friends since freshman year of high school. When he came back from his year sojourn at John Carroll, it kind of brightened up my time there. And then Tom became our next president of the Podiceps and took us through a lot of changes, getting the house, doing the concert. Remember the parliaments, you know? I just want to testify. The guys who said they had gotten together in the West Virginia State Penitentiary. I don't know if the story was true or not, but I loved it either way. And so I want to introduce my good friend for a long time, Tom Sipes.
What an act to follow. Oh my God. So, hi there. Jerry said I should keep it short and funny, so I thought I would just introduce Vinny. And I'm not going to be funny. But short. Yeah. So, yeah, I was away the freshman year, and then I came back and, ran into Jerry. And so Jerry said, this group is happening. It's called the Podiceps. And that's a little lame. What the heck? But we're meeting, we're going to be meeting at, I think it was like the audio-visual room somewhere in the bowels of the administrative building. And so I get there, I come along and say, well, why not, meet some new people. So there's a lot of chatter and talking, and I'm thinking, well, what is this about? I don't know half of the guys here. What's collecting them? And I see Albers, the LeBron of St. X. And Ronnie Singler, I know he was a runner, and I was somewhat of an athlete at Trinity. So I thought, oh, it's a gathering of athletes. And then I thought of Jerry. That's really not fair, because Jerry actually, again, he was a Trinity football player. There was time for Jerry. It was usually somewhere in the end of the third quarter. And, but he had developed, this man has style, right? So usually when the guys were called off the bench, they would kind of slink away. But Jerry had this, he had the cape. I remember a November game, he had the cape on, and he had developed, it was a kind of a combination of a matador and James Brown. And I know he turned around, I know he wanted an applause just for that, because in his head he's introducing himself in the roar of the crowd. So okay, so it's not a grouping of athletes. So then I look around and I go, well, there's Novick, the sage, old guy, the philosopher. And then I think, I hear about Doug Brown, he's this genius scientist, And then of course there's Moran, the poet. But then I think of Tonini. And I think, where's that intellect going? So I said, well, it's definitely not a collection of intellectuals. So I walk out of there. Somehow I was president. I'm sure it's just because nobody else wanted the job, And then, so walking out, really not knowing further who everybody was, and then not actually having a mission, knowing we had St. John's. So really one of my proudest moments, what came next when we built the bar. I figured, if you don't have a mission statement, let's build a bar and start from there. I keep thinking I built a bar. Who else built the bar? Do you remember? You were part of the bar guy? I know that Albers did some electricity on it, I think. Yeah. So that was great fun. Jerry's already mentioned a couple of things that I thought were really fun. The dance that we did, the big party that we did. I'm not sure why we did it. We made money for some money. We had fun. But I have a note here I wanted to make. I did discover that there are 4 species of Podiceps. They're grebes, basically, and one of the grebes actually was noted for its elaborate mating ritual. And I recall that at this dance, we actually got kind of chastised by the administration for obscene dancing. And I said, what's happening? And I think Jerry was practicing his elaborate mating dance. And Charlie, do you remember, we had a conversation about that. What was that?
I don't remember. I want to thank Tom for coming to speak tonight.
There was, anyway. So actually, we pulled him off the dance floor, and he just said, "Teresa's just too beautiful for me." And I said, "Duh, of course." Thank you, Teresa. He's a great friend. I'm so happy that you were able to take care of the guy. So, all that happened, and it was great fun, and it was wonderful to be a part of the group that was vibrant and exciting. Of course, the concert, like Jerry talked about, that was very exciting. That continued on with Michael later. I think then some things happened. I've been a canoeist my whole life. I've had a canoe since high school, and even for the last 40 years in California, the 3 other guys and myself have been canoeing these coastal rivers in California and Oregon. And on these rivers, they're not vast rivers, but you can always hear the rapid before you see it. And some rapids are no problem. You could go, this is going to be fun. And some rapids go, you better get out of your canoe and check me out. And early or late, actually, the fall of '67 and on into '68, we, the Podiceps, I think, began to hear the rapid. And it was a little scary. It was, you already referred a bit to what's going on in '68. I don't need to go into any details. But I think, you know, that time refined who we were as young men and sobered us up a little bit. And for me, I recall the last page of the last yearbook. I don't know who did that, but congratulations. I know you, Albert was part of it, and Mabel was part of it. Doug Brown was part of it. But you'll recall there was this picture of this vibrant and angry black woman who had her fist in the air and was demanding a place at the table. And the question that the yearbook asked was, after this idyllic place that we've been in, are you ready? Are you ready for this? This being the real world. You know, are we ready to step into justice? You know, are we ready to step into engagement, into empathy? And I think for me, that question reverberated through my life, you know, and I think it was a question that meant something to all of us here, because I think what made us Podiceps was we said yes, we're ready. And I think all of us in our own way, you know, have proven it. 50 years later, I bet you there's not a person in here who hasn't really worked hard at being, you know, a real fine human being. So I'm very proud to have been a part of all of this. Thank you.
I spoke earlier about succession plans, succeeding yourself with members, but also succession plans of going from one president to the next. And it was yet another thing I think we did well. And so the second president of the Podiceps, from when I was there as a formal group at least, Mike Nothing. Michael, come on up.
Thank you. Well, way to go. What an event, huh? What a time. A couple things popped into my head as I was listening to the other speakers, and a couple of them really are kind of non sequiturs, but they're so interesting. One of them is, one of the things Father Horgan used to say was that administrations come and go, faculty come and go, but the alumni, they stay. And the alumni is the lifeblood of an institution. And we are the ones that keep the institution on track. We want to see to it that what we started continues. And I think that Bellarmine alums have done a great job of that. And I think Bellarmine is doing a great job. And our new president, who is stellar, and we are excited to see what's going to come next. And also happy to know that she's maintaining the course, which is quite dramatic, really. The other thing is Father John Loftus, who loved the Podiceps, and each of us. And Doug, you did the letter, right, that came to us in email recently, and it was the last. Remember how Father John used to put a memo up on the board and talk to the Podiceps, which certainly didn't help us with our classmates because we were already thought to be snobby and cultish and all that sort of thing, which we weren't. It was just one of the unfortunate things because we were certainly not that. But anyway, he is known to have said, Bellarmine students will end up selling used cars just like everybody else. They just won't be happy doing it. Yeah, it really is great. And I've thought of that many times because what you do, with a good liberal arts education, you're constantly aware of the other. You're constantly aware of what else could be. You're constantly aware of what could be. And so whatever you're doing, in whatever occupation, whether you're doing something highly lofty or you're doing something very simple, it always could be done better. And certainly, as people, things could go better. One of the things that I think is so difficult today for most people who are dealing with our current situation is that it doesn't have to be this way. And it's sad to see things happening the way they are because we know, those of us with liberal arts educations, what could be. And it's always sad to see that happen. Now, those are the two incidental things that I didn't make any notes about. The thing that you can't help but think about at a time like this is the mystery of time, which I sure won't go into deeply, but the fact that you can put a cup of coffee in the microwave and it seems to take 50 years for that minute to pass. And then you come to an event like this and it seems like it's only been a minute since we've been together. And it's just a remarkable thing, and the way we change and the way we have changed our bodies, our time. I was telling Vinny staying with us, Mary Jane and me, and I said the other night, we were talking, or last night, and I said, I'm in the adolescence of old age. And I really think that's what it is. I mean, you see a real old guy, you think, well, I'm not there yet, but I guess that's coming. And I'm kind of getting used to it because there is no what do you call it, rule book or whatever, manual for growing old. So we're all kind of doing it our own way and the way in which we think we can do it best. But it is a challenge, and there's no doubt about that. So I think it's wonderful that we all have come back together again because it is a remarkable group. Bellarmine is great and is getting better, but it was a Periclean age, I think. There was an enormous coming together of people, of professors, and I was kind of trying to do a necrology in my mind and thought of the guys we've lost and think of them, and sorry they can't be here, and also the faculty and the administrators that we've lost who can't be here. And it's most of them, frankly, which is kind of hard to realize, but that's the way it is. All right. Yeah, the real theme is throughout life, and I'm sure each of you have gone through this, I'm sure you have, whether in graduate school or the Army or wherever you went and are. This happens even today in circumstances in business and so forth. You talk about your college years in one way or another, or something pops into your head, and you say, well, I was in this, what happened? Well, I was in this club. Oh, you were in a fraternity? Well, it wasn't really a fraternity. What was it? Well, a kind of a social club. Oh, okay, and so you guys got together. No, I didn't do that. It's very hard to describe what a Podiceps is. It's a very distinctive experience, very distinctive. And so, we've all gone through that. So I thought to myself, we're calling to mind all these wonderful memories and experiences and so forth. And I thought to myself, you know, what really was at the bottom of the whole thing? And really what it was it's a bunch of, I think, you know, classy kids. And I mean classy in the sense that they had integrity and felt comfortable with their own abilities. And one of the things being president I saw was really nobody needed to be bossed around in any way. I mean, we didn't have any political problems. I don't mean, I think we had a Republican among us someplace, but overall we did. I mean, internally, there was nobody. You know, various things would happen. Some people would agree, some people would. Then we'd vote on it, and then be, oh, okay, that's fine. I remember when I took over as president, Tom Sipes was giving me some words of wisdom, and he said, the thing I like to think about is every one of us is all we need, which of course was borrowed from the Beatles. But I thought about that a lot. And the thing is, one of the things that we did was respected one another. There was so much diversity. And we respected that. And I remember when things happened, like the concert in the year that I was president. And I remember being there, and I really didn't do a whole lot other than you know, I guess appoint the committees or whatever people needed to, you know, whatever. And I got there in front in the afternoon, and there's Gutzel up on the roof of the building. I thought, what the hell is he doing up there? Oh, he's measuring the thing where we have to do the things, you know, so we can go up there, the angle of the telemetry of these, what do you call them, rockets. And I thought, man, he knows how to do that. And then I found that a lot. I mean, the music, the way you set up the music, the bar getting built. Things just, we need that? Oh, okay, that's done. And another thing that's interesting is, you joked earlier about that dance. The dance raised money for the orphans. We always did programs that helped other people. We were always for others, which is, of course, the core of Christianity. And goodwill is that you always need to look out for the needs of others. And we did that, and did it very unself-consciously. And I remember also, yes, we decorated the place, and we needed some paintings for the walls. I don't know who went. Somebody went to the library, and they got a Paul Klee, and they got, but the one that I think we'll all remember is at the end of the hall was Thomas More. And somebody brought that in, and he was kind of the hero of our day because we were all facing being powerless in a powerful society. And we had you know, the draft board breathing down our throats and all that sort of thing. And we had the whole problem of if the society tells us what to do we have the moral responsibility to do it? We were struggling with that, and it was hard to get help. I mean, I remember we had a big, I can't remember his name, very important ethicist come and talk to us, a big published guy. And we asked him, what would you do if you were in our situation? Oh, well, I can't. He was British. Oh, I can't handle that. I can't deal with that. I thought, you a son of a buck. Like, why not? I mean, we're dealing with it, and we're only, you know, 20 years old. So anyway, it is a group of remarkable people. I'm so glad that I was a part. It certainly influenced my life. And when you think of how each of us, just by being himself, has made such a change in the lives of all of our friends and our buddies, it's a remarkable group. And I really didn't think this would ever happen again. I traveled most of my career and had the good fortune of being able to get around to various cities and so forth. And I looked up people who I was able to connect with. And Sipes and I saw a lot of one another through the years. And we would talk about this. And we certainly never envisioned being able to come together again. So thanks for the memories. And let's keep going. Podiceps forever.
So before I introduce our last speaker, thank you, Michael, and thank everybody. You know, there are some mysteries that people probably don't know that I think is probably time to reveal, because a couple of people mentioned that they liked reading AKOH, and I don't know if you knew this, but there really wasn't a Vladimir and Estragon. It was Michael Rand and me. I'm sure none of you are aware of that. And I always felt that AKOH had an unfair reputation as being kind of cynical. And it was not. It was not a cynical college. Do you think so, Michael? Not at all. Of course, you know, we probably had different standards at that time. So I've given a lot of talks over the years. I've been on a lot of programs over the years, and it seemed like I was always following somebody who ran way too long, and I thought, I wish they were speaking fast. You know, because if somebody's going to run long, you want somebody else to, you want them to be at the end, because then they're pushing everybody back. And that's just a random thought. Oh yeah. That's just a random thought that I've had over time. Our final speaker tonight is Vinny Linares.
Oh my God. I was charged by this committee to be funny. Because I guess I was funny as a student, the frothy freshman. But I decided, since I am the last, I'll try to be somewhat funny, but I think I also need to be reflective. Because my coming back to Louisville, I hope I said that correctly, is a full circle for me in my life. And some of the best years of my life were here because of the people in this room. So I arrive with my hair rather singed because of the volcano. Many people tonight have asked me about the volcano. It's 200 miles away, folks, from where I live. But I appreciate the concern about the volcano. And I'm going to be semi-serious, and I have to read what I wrote, because I took a lot of time on the 27 hours it took me to get here from Maui, between LA and Denver and Houston and Louisville, to think about these thoughts. And I want to share them with you. And they're serious and they're not so serious. And I need to read it, because I can't remember what I wrote. And I want you to see how big the print is. Okay, you don't see that. All right. I arrive today fresh from the wrath and the destruction of Madame Pele, the goddess of fire, as she concurrently destroys and constructs in Hawaii. And the volcano is about 150 miles from my house. But everyone that I've talked to since coming to Maine thinks that it's in my backyard. You know, and it's not. It's a many miles away. Unfortunately, too many Americans are unaware of the size of the islands or the distances between the islands, and they think we're all being ravaged. So I thought I'd start with a little silly joke about my hair. And I used to have hair like Bob Albrecht used to have hair. Right. Okay. Fox News reported 2 weeks ago, I saw it myself, that the island of Oahu was being evacuated because of the volcano. Well, the volcano is 300 miles from Oahu, but that's what the news was reporting. And so that's so much for geography classes, right? And about what a lot of people think about that state way out there in the middle of nowhere. And boy, are we in the middle of nowhere. The last time I saw most of you was 50 years ago. 50 years ago. In the spring of 1968. Well, let's face it, the world was really screwed up. All right? Just think, take a second. Think about the spring of 1968. And several of the former speakers have talked about the fact that we survived. At graduation, I was in the audience with my parents, who did not know I wasn't graduating. Until they arrived. Okay? From Connecticut, driving down, having the time of their life. But they had a fabulous time when they were here after they got over the shock of me not graduating. And it's because we had a phenomenal party at the Podiceps house for graduation. Absolutely unbelievable party. And you all know what great parties we threw. All right? And they talked about my trip. They talked about not graduating. They talked about that party for years. Actually, I don't remember much of 1968. And from January until You graduated, and I didn't. Okay? It's a blur to me. It's really a blur about what happened in this country at the time from January and with Kennedy being assassinated and Martin Luther King being assassinated and Johnson saying he wasn't going to run again, and it's just a blur. And I fled the country. I really did. I left to join the Peace Corps. Where fortunately they were not aware that I did not graduate. Okay? Otherwise, I would not have been able to get in. And I was short 6 credits for graduation. Short 6 credits. I think I flunked Spanish 202 and symbolic logic. It makes a lot of sense if you know me. Okay. Symbolic logic. As fate would have it, I did graduate in 1972, having received credit for the mastery of Pacific languages, which then fueled my career in Tokyo in 1971 and 72, where I had the most fabulous time of my life. And Dr. Dean Michael, what was it? Gave me credit, let me graduate.
Dr. Bob Preston.
Dr. Preston said, okay, let's give him credit for his work in the Peace Corps. So I graduated in 1972, but I'm here tonight because I begged to be here. My Peace Corps experience shaped the rest of my life and my career as I ended up in Hawaii for 46 years, and I retired 6 years ago as a professor emeritus of linguistics at the University of Hawaii. And the last time you saw me, I was significantly taller. I had really a full hair of black curly hair. I weighed 128 pounds. And I was noted for my extraordinary scholarly skills and prowess with women. And that's another story we won't go into tonight, okay? My life took a different path in that direction. I'm going to be 73 in 2 weeks. So I'm a little older than most of you. And I have devoted a lot of time, as we do when we get older, and we start to experience what happens to us as we get older. I've spent a lot of time thinking about what happened to me here in Louisville. What happened to us in Louisville in 1964 to 1968. What was it that happened to us that made us who we are today? And Mike has alluded to that, as did Jerry and several other people. As I look around, it seems that we've all been rather successful. And most importantly, we have survived. Think back to 1968. Think back to 64 to 68. Think about what's happening in this country. Think about cities burning and people going crazy in the Vietnam War and all those things, which we now look back with a certain amount of reflection. But we survived, and here we are today. Rather successful and pretty happy about who and what we are. So, what happened here in this place, in Louisville? Was it the 25 cents per bottle of beer and Fall City beer that Michael got us that was in that Coke cooler in the house that always made a lot of money for us to keep the house decorated? Was it all the bourbon, which I have been baselining since I got here last night? I've been drinking a lot of bourbon for the last day and a half, which I love. Or if I may be woo-woo, you know that term woo-woo? I live on Maui. Woo-woo is the center. It's the world center of woo-ness. Okay? Was it the unexplained synergy of a bunch of guys? Boys becoming men? And we did become men in those days. We survived amidst one of the greatest upheavals in the history of the country. And at a Catholic college, no less, at a Catholic men's college, no less, where unidentified students in the dark of night flung open the locked doors of the church's index and strewed the books all around the room, and I won't tell who did that. I'll keep that secret with me. Okay? Was it the competition with that other club? The Ball and Chain, remember them? And the Podiceps in hindsight, the competition between us, and in hindsight, what we did together with that other club concerned a lot more than just sports, who we were and what we did. I'm beginning to lose my way here. Was it the day I nearly got expelled? Because I refused to follow a top-down dress code, which said that I had to wear socks with my sandals. That happened in 1967. I was called in by the dean of students and almost expelled because I didn't wear socks with my sandals. And the faculty senate came to my rescue, and we won. Okay, can you imagine today in 2018 thinking about a kid? My God, they don't wear any clothes to school. I know, I taught for 44 years. Okay? Or, more importantly and seriously, the time I met Thomas Merton in the men's bathroom and got to talk to him for like 10 minutes outside the bathroom. And that moment in time changed my life. That little moment with Thomas Merton. Question is that my time at Bellarmine and in Louisville as a boy, Italian, Irish, Greek kid from Connecticut in Louisville, I do know is that my time with you radically altered who I am, who I was then, and who I have become. And more importantly, it set into motion a life and a career trajectory that has taken me around the world many, many times, literally and figuratively. And most beautifully has brought me all back to you here tonight. After 50 years. I mean, and I'm looking around here, and boy, that thing about what's your name? Oh my God, Jerry, I saw Jerry. I said, who are you? And I knew it was him, but you know, I can't see. I'm almost done. He said, please don't be too maudlin, yeah? As we age, most of us experience a gradual process of loss. You all know that. We lose our memory, we lose our agility, we lose friends, we lose family, we lose skills and health. But as I stand before you tonight, I can say with total, complete clarity, I did not lose this. What is this? Well, we all have our own definition of this, but I did not lose this. This has stayed with me since 1968, ungraduated. Okay? What happened to me and you here, in this town, that place. Okay? And that has stuck with me. So, if I may wax somewhat sillily poetically, in that Kentucky galaxy, light years away, well, 50 years to be exact, the solar system shifted. It really did. And it shifted for a bunch of pretty decent guys. And I will forever be grateful that I somehow got caught up in that convergence. Brought to Louisville by Bellarmine to participate and meet people like you. And you have stayed with me my whole life. And even though I live out there in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, far away from the rest of you, the Podiceps and Bellarmine will be a part of me forever. And I can't stop speaking without mentioning Maggie Mahoney, who was my mentor, who taught me so much about being a great teacher, and who remained in touch with me until just before she died. And that experience also was something that I had here. In Hawaii, we have a very special word for occasions like this. And the word is imua. Imua. And it means to go forth in life with strength, conviction, and with the awareness that your path is righteous. And we are damn righteous. All of us. Okay? And so I say to you tonight, all my friends from 50 years ago, and I haven't seen but 2 or 3 of you since then, I say to you, imua. Remember that word. And when you ever come to Hawaii, if you do, think about the word imua. And I also say, as I was meant to say at the beginning of my, was supposed to be funny speech, aloha. You all know that word. Well, the word aloha is a very complicated word. I'm a linguist. My life has been studying language and parts of language. And aloha means hello. You all know that. Aloha means goodbye. And aloha means I love you. But the most important meaning of aloha is may God be with you. Because the word aloha, ha means the breath of God. Ha means the Spirit of God. Ha means the Spirit of the Creator. So from now on, whenever you hear the word aloha, think, I love you, hello, goodbye, but may God be with you, my friends of 50 years. Okay? So, I wish you aloha in all of its important definitions. But most especially, I wish to say I love you all, and I wish you the best. Aloha.
Aloha.